You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blaine of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ground Transportation Podcast. My name is Ken Lucci with Driving Transactions, with my co-host James Blaine from PAX Training.
Hey, everybody.
And I am honored to introduce our special guest, Jess Sandhu.
Hi, everyone.
Jess is one of the co-owners of A&A Transportation up in Seattle, Washington, and he is one of our clients from a financial perspective, and I asked him to come on because he is probably one of the most profitable companies of his size. Jess, how much a year? Annual revenue, roughly?
Roughly about, I think this year we're going to be hitting close to $6 million.
Excellent. Wow. Excellent. Yeah. So you've grown it from scratch?
Yep, we have.
Okay. So give us an idea, give us a background of A&A, give us a background of yours as well. And we also want to give a shout out to the brains of the operation who couldn't be with us today. His name is Harry Sandhu. Harry's the father, and Harry absolutely is the brains of the operation, but, Jess is the speaker today. So just tell us a little bit, tell us about how you got into it, tell us about A&A over the course of history, and then A&A today, please.
Got it. Hey, so my family came from a transportation background in Southeast Asia, and we had an opportunity to migrate to the U.S. for my further studies and all that. So my dad took it, and he sold everything, and we moved to the U.S. And we started, I believe it was 1993. We started as a taxi cab company.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, we were a taxi cab company. We had a couple of cabs. I was in college, and then my dad just bought a limo, and I think what happened was he had a heart attack or something.
Oh, geez.
So he had to go to the hospital. So I was running basically the transportation company. I didn't know anything about it. Cell phones were like $1 a minute back then. And so I ran it. I was like, wow, this is fun. So then slowly he bought one. He bought another, and we had drivers. And then came 98 when I graduated from college, and this is what I wanted to be doing.
What was your degree in?
Business
and
management.
What's your home country? Where did you guys migrate from?
So we are from Indian origin, but we grew up in Singapore and Malaysia.
So how big was that company over there before you get, trying to kind of get that gauge of where you started
We
from.
were about, I think we had about 60 buses.
Okay.
60 buses, 50 or 60 buses, yeah.
Why go into taxi then? Why not stick with kind of the buses and that? What made your dad jump over to the cab side?
That's what everybody was doing. All the Indians were doing cabs back then. I mean, he went to New York. He went to visit some friends. He went to here. The guy had a cab company. Back then, when I used to go to the Sikh temple, everybody had a cab. Everybody had a cab. All the Sikhs were cab drivers. It was just
what brought
a natural
you to
thing.
Seattle?
We had a couple of relatives living here. Mm-hmm. And basically, we just decided Seattle, it was growing. And we did move to California for 6 months, but realized that Seattle is where everybody was happening. Oh. And we moved back to Seattle right after that. And we've stayed here ever since then, and we've grown our roots here.
So when did you transition from taxi to limo?
It was just in the transportation field. I mean, you have taxis and limos. It was back then, if you wanted to go to the airport, it wasn't Uber, it wasn't a limo, it was a taxi. You take a taxi. Yeah. And then my dad saw that there were always 6 people, 7 people. Back then, there were no SUVs. No one was running SUVs, so everybody bought limos. So we had the 6-passenger limo, which was a 56-inch stretch. The funny story was when I turned 21, we had a party. I drove that limo to the restaurant. And I drove it back. So it was
to your own 21st birthday.
To my own 21st birthday. So it was like either I drove a limo or I get drunk.
Yeah.
So I drove a limo. On my 21st birthday, I drove to my own party, and I drove it back from my own party with the family and everything, riding. And I was like, because, I was a born driver, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then slowly we went into, back then town cars was just coming on, back in 1995, 96. We were just coming back on, and then slowly we went to town cars, and then that's how the limousine side happened. and it was
When
all
did you
airport.
stop the taxis?
I believe it was right after I got off of college. I think it was 2000. I was 1998. Sorry, I think 1998. And then 99 was the year when my dad went to the first limo show by himself, and he became an NLA member in 99.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, okay, fine, let's. I didn't know anything, and I didn't. So I and then back then it was limos. Everybody had the biggest limos. It was all about limos, limos, limos.
And when did you transition from, what made you make the transition from the stretch limousine or, limousine provider to more of the bus side? When did you make that transition?
Well, I believe it was 2000. So let me give you a little bit of background before that. So before 9/11, since Microsoft was here, all I did was limos. We used to have limos going out 5 days a week, 6 days a week back then, because all these new kids were coming to Microsoft, and they had crazy money. They didn't know what to do with the money. They used to party. We used to go 5 o'clock to Microsoft, and they will just take us out till midnight, and there was crazy money. So then came 9/11. Then we had there was a lot of things then. Then we decided to buy one of the longest limo, which was, I believe, a 2007 Escalade, which was a 24 passenger. So in order to have that, we knew that we had to get CDLs and we had to get a bus license. So we bought that. I think it was so we got that built. Everything came in April, and then my dad said, "Well, now you have a bus license, and we're getting the bus permits. Why don't we actually buy a bus?"
Get the bus.
Yeah. So we bought a bus. I think our first bus was $6,000. And we spent about $3,000 painting it, everything, and basically within I think 3 weeks we went into a brand new bus. We were like, wow,
Just head first, right?
just head first.
But you were there before, right? So that kind
Yeah.
of like I asked earlier. Now at that point, you're back to where you were before you guys came over and started here in the U.S.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So it was just a small 24 passenger bus with rear luggage. It was nothing fancy. And it just we bought one, we bought two, we bought three, and we just keep multiplying. My dad was like, wait a minute, you can do one bus trip and make 5 airport trips.
Yeah.
And he's like, why aren't we doing more of this?
Yeah.
And then slowly, it just built from there. We started building the brand name and everything.
So
You were stretch. You had a lot of stretchers back in the day,
We did.
but you successfully pivoted. First, you had Sprinter limos and then executive sprinters, but you pivoted
Right.
pretty much. A large part of your business now is minibus and not motor coaches, but school buses, activity buses.
Correct. Then we realized that the 24 and the 32 passengers was our bread and butter. Those were the workhorses, the 24, the 28s, the 32s. And then we were already serving the school. And then guess what? Then came COVID.
Yep.
We came out of COVID. We already had relationships. The private schools came out with guidelines. They were like, okay, the buses need to have windows that open up. Thank God we had some Starcraft buses that they call it the T sliders open up, so fresh air could get in. In fact, I had to retrofit a bus with 6 brand new windows so I can open up the windows, and because we had that relationship with the school, they came up to me and said, "How the first offer was, how could you come to me and how could you get me drivers?" That was my first like basically I provided drivers, they had their buses. So I went down and saw their buses. I was like, my God, this is when James was probably in elementary school. They're still running old buses and all that. And I was like, wow. So then I said, no, I'm sorry. I said, I really can't do this. I said, it's just too much to maintain somebody else's fleet. And then they came back to me, okay, how would you like to do one route? I said, great. I said, well, the very next day I went down and I bought 2 buses. And I told the school I bought 2. Well, the school was like, why did you buy 2? We just need 1 bus. I said, well, I need a backup bus.
right.
And so 2 buses realistically cost me $65,000, which is the price of 1 Suburban.
And when was this? This is coming right
This
after
was
COVID,
in
right?
2021.
Yeah.
2021. This is coming out of COVID, and we were like, okay, we were hungry. We were, all of us have, all most of the savings were gone. with trying to see what the next step was for the company. I mean, I was
You're
thinking
rebuilding.
yeah, exactly, because I was thinking I was going to go out and buy motor coaches seriously, but then I thought I can get them cheap, but that did not happen. So then came the school bus division because they were lack of school bus drivers. A lot of the older school bus drivers were afraid to come back to driving school buses because so there was a lot of that and this and that, and then so the school was smart. I mean, one of the school was really smart. They were like, okay, let me give you a small pie of it, and they were like, wow, you guys deliver. I used to get calls at 4 o'clock from the school. Hey, one of my bus driver is not coming today, and can you cover this route? And I'll be like, sure. So I used to get up at 4:30 and go pick up a bus from my yard and just go do it. And they were like, wow, that is amazing.
But
guys
you're
can do
going
this.
above and beyond, right?
I
You're
was.
going out of your way and doing it yourself to cover them, and they know they can count on you, which is why that starts to develop,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They'd be like 4 o'clock in the morning. They would call me and said, "Hey, I know you already have 2 routes, but can you go and cover this route for 1 day or 2 days?" So I did that. I actually did that on a 44-passenger executive bus. And
Picked up
you know
the
what?
kids in a 44-passenger executive bus.
Executive bus. Yeah, I did all that.
But,
I mean,
but you really, you guys pivoted when this came up. You could have basically said, no, I don't do schools. I don't do private schools. I don't do school kids, etc. But you took the opportunity to pivot, and you first, I think proactively, you made the decision to pivot away from stretch limousines.
we did that, right?
And to talk about how have you been able to, because you have very little turnover. I'm going to brag on you a little bit. You have practically no debt, unbelievable profitability for the size for your size company. And don't say it because Harry is frugal.
He is.
It's because you keep your overhead low, right?
I do.
And you invest in equipment and you invest in your people. You have practically no turnover of drivers. How did that happen? And how does that work?
Well, a long time ago, I think it was in 2004, I went for a site visit. I can't remember, I don't want to say the name of the company, but it was a company in the New York area. And I walked in, and the first thing I saw was no drivers beyond this point.
This was a chauffeured company. And
This was a chauffeured company, so I went to see them. And then, so there was, basically you walked in the office, and there was a small area, and it says no chauffeurs, no drivers beyond this point. And on the right of the office was the dispatcher yelling at the driver. He was yelling at the driver, and I was like, And then that company had a high turnover rate, and the owner couldn't see why.
But you figured it out when you walked in the door.
I did, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not right. This is, you're treating them like they are
Second-class citizens.
second-class citizens. Correct. You're not allowed. Like mine, they're coming up to me, and they're discussing. They're telling me, hey, my wife's pregnant. I say congratulations. Stuff like that, little things like that. Like, hey, if there's any issues, they can come to me. I mean, it's not like even at night. If there's a little issue, if they need help, anything. I mean, I have that open door policy.
It's how you treat your staff, and you pay well. Let's not, you pay well, and you have very little turnover. You have a lot of loyalty with your people. The other piece of that is, I know you spend a lot of time and money maintaining your fleet. There's probably, when I see on Facebook, if somebody's got a question on a part, the most obscure part in the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Doesn't matter what it is. He knows it off the top of his head.
Yeah.
And he's usually the first one to respond. That's the thing that I always love is that nobody commands Facebook like Jess when it comes to parts or windows. They're really just posting it so Jess will go on there and answer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm it's like weird things like, oh my God, that's a 36 by 36 window. It's on eBay. It's like $200 on eBay. Just go buy it.
Right.
But
because you've gone through a lot of it in the past.
I have.
Yeah. But you have an incredible amount of knowledge on the operations and mechanical side.
I do, and that's because when one of my first mechanic that my dad used for our taxi business, when I used to bring a taxi or a limo to him, he'll be like, okay, jack that up and open up the tires. He used to make me do things.
And you're right, to your point. you're respected because you know every piece of the business and you've done every piece of the business. But
Yes.
the funny thing is, he does not for $6 million. How many people do you have doing reservations and dispatching? $6 million company.
Right now, I believe I have 2 people working.
Okay.
Right now.
Talk to us about you, and no one will believe it, but it's true.
No.
Talk about the technology side of the business, because you were a pioneer on pivoting away from stretch limousines and going to more institutional clients, corporate clients, group in meetings, sprinters, minivans, etc. Talk to us about the technology aspects and how technology's changed your business.
Of course. And, it's so funny because here's what it is. And I tell this, and I have the same speech for the last 5-6 years. If our good friend Douglas Schwartz wants to buy his underwear or boxers, which he wears a lot.
Love the
Yeah.
Doug.
What a specific
Yeah.
example. What a specific example.
Love the Doug. Love the Doug.
So Dougie is not going to call Amazon at 206-266-1000. He's going to go to Amazon.com, find out what he wants, and he orders them. Or if he doesn't want it, he'll put it in the cart. He'll come back. It's still there, or he'll get reminders. So why can't we do the same thing on the limousine side? Well, we have. There was a company, which James remember, Book.limo.
Yep.
He was the first one that
Yep.
came
Ryan
out.
Hildeberth.
Ryan, yeah, exactly. He was the first one that came up in 2005.
Yep.
And he had this wonderful product which we were all using. And it was a very true online booking tool. Great at that time, but it still wasn't enough. Because what we need, what Book.limo was missing was the sales aspect of it, the sales funnel.
Right.
Then came add-ons.
Quote management.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So then came add-ons. Add-ons in 2000 and I think it was 2008 or 2018 was when I met Mike.
Mike
up in
Blackburn.
Mike exactly in Atlantic City, and Andy.
Yep.
And they were saying,
Norman.
Yep, exactly. So Andy Norman came up and said, Jess, we have a product that we are launching, and we want you to be the one of the first ones. So I said, great, I love it. I said, and theirs was amazing tool. It was an amazing tool. When Book.limo went down back in, I think it was 2018 or something.
Yeah, it would have been around that time.
Yeah, I think it went down for about 2-3 weeks. I noticed our phone volume just went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what I was trying to do was I was trying to stop those crazy calls like, how much is the limo? How much is the limo? How
9
much
o'clock,
is the limo?
10 o'clock at night.
At night, yeah, how much is the limo?
How much
is the
is it
limo?
to the airport? 11:30.
Yeah, how much is it to the airport?
11:30
Well,
at night for 2 weeks from now. How much is it to go to the airport?
Exactly. And we don't need those kind of calls. Everything's online.
Yep.
Right.
Everything's online. With the sales funnel that Mike, with the add-on teams that have created this. And I was very fortunate because during COVID is when I set up my my whole add-on things. And Mike was available because there was nothing going on.
Well, you were preparing. You were getting ready for
exactly.
when it came back. It had to come back.
Yeah, I had to do all these crazy things to just so Mike was amazing. He showed me everything. He had plenty of time back then. Now I know he doesn't have time. He's busy. But back then he had all the time in the world. I used to call him at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which was 9 o'clock his time, and he will actually answer my call. And we got that set up. We got it running, and I was blown away.
Yep.
I was blown away. I mean, we have competitors here that basically they spend a lot of money on add-ons, but they don't have a closer. They don't have a closing tool. And Lead Code Close is that answer. 2 years ago, I think Santa Cruz was going to launch something very similar. I'm not sure if they have yet.
It's still on the roadmap.
Still on the
Yeah,
roadmap.
yeah, I don't think so. I don't even know that I've heard about it recently.
So
I have to be careful, but do you see the smirk on my face? Nobody can see.
I know.
They can't see the smirk on a podcast. So anyway,
So people
I'm sorry.
ask me, like, why are you with Limo Anywhere? Why are you with... Because of this great tool.
Yeah.
There's nobody else in the industry that has it. People don't get it. Oh, I hate Limo Anywhere.
Now, let's face it. They built a customized CRM and
Yeah.
a sales funnel tool and a quote management system that, and to me, you and Josh Roman from Heaven on Wheels, we sold his
right?
company. Okay. Shout out to Josh. He's now in a great industry. He's happy as hell. And we sold his company. And that's how I met Jess, by the way. But Josh, what sold Josh's company was him on a Zoom showing me, oh, Ken, I have 195 quotes open.
Yeah.
I've sold 97. That is the equivalent of 128,000. You see these quotes? We're working on these quotes today. And to me, to Jess's point, the reality is corporate procurement officers, 84% of the time when they're looking for a new provider, they're looking online. And then they're going to read you reviews, they're looking online. Weddings, brides, etc., they're looking online.
They are.
How do you facilitate $6 million with two people? Okay, now, listen, he's got some good institutional customers, but even if it's a $4 million, the institutional customers are scheduled, even if it's $4 million, how do you do that with two people without the technology in place? That was the smartest thing he did during the downtime.
I did, and here's the funny thing was, me and Josh Roman, I think it was back in 2015. I've known him all my life, but back in 2015, that we were at the limo show, and there was this company that was launching the coding tool or code something for us. Because I was looking, like for example, I was looking for something to present to my clients when they want a quote.
Yep.
Right.
I was looking for something to present to my clients. I was looking for something that we can put like a picture of a bus and all that, and or something. And there was nothing out there. In 2016 or 15, a company came close, and it was based in India. But the funny thing was, it was so difficult. Me and Josh, we used to call each other up, and we set up the emails, we did everything, and there was nobody else. There was nobody, I need something to send to my corporate clients, like, hey, you want 3 buses at Expedia. Okay, here are the 3 buses. This is the cost. This is your total. And this is what I want you, this is the whole price. There was nothing out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to send an email. Hi, Mr. Smith. This is the price for the limo. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Yep,
Start
exactly.
from scratch every single time.
So what does the staff look like then, right? Obviously now you're down to 2. How many did you have back then?
We had 5.
The work of 5 people is now being done by 2.
And when you consider, when we will examine his numbers and look at his transaction cost, it's the lowest around, right? Yeah. Because the way we do that is simple. We take a look at the reservations and dispatch expense on the P&L, and then we divide it by the number of transactions. I've got companies that are $22 per transaction, and they're like, well, Ken, I have to have the reservation staff there. I'm like, dude, do you want them working on a $1,500 to $2,000 bus run, or do you want them working on a $150 airport run?
Trip,
right?
Your transaction cost is going to be the same. So, the vanilla ice cream reservations, try to get them online. He's taken it to another level.
Yeah.
Other people, he literally, when people will call, he will let them know, geez, do you know that you can do all of this online? It's all on our website.
Yeah, in fact, it is. It is. And I just had a Meta, which is Facebook, Meta client just booked a bus for a Christmas party online before I got on the podcast. A corporate employee, a corporate assistant does not have time to call. They want to be able to go online and just look at the rate, and I could be the most expensive company. They don't care because they're not the one paying for it. Right. They just want the ease. Okay, it's Friday.
And they want it done.
They want it done. They want it done.
Get on to the next task.
Right.
Yep.
Now, the other piece of this puzzle is all of the people in the corporate travel departments are young, well, certainly a lot younger than me. But these are the kids that do everything on their smartphones, everything online. And when I hear operators say, well, my customers like to call me, okay, well, Mary, who's 62 years old, is going to be sliding out into retirement pretty damn quick. And what's going to happen is the millennials going to choose based on the ease of their job. And that's what, and what intrigued me when we started working with Jess was, when you looked at the profitability of this business, I would say, why isn't every company, he's come up right the same way. he's come up the same. Look, he had a great background in bus. Harry is an absolute cerebral genius as far as I can see, right? But he could have stayed with limo, and
Yeah.
he could have just been married to being in love with fleet. But technology is really what's driving his business. And you're also being a little modest because people have told me add-ons is very tough, very difficult to set up and manage. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, it is a bit difficult, but once you get through the hurdles, okay.
No.
Basically, my add-ons, I believe I have not touched it for the last 3 years that much.
Once
So
you
basically,
set it up,
once you set it
Yeah.
up, I mean, yes, I've increased the prices, I've added some pictures, all that. But the hard part is setting it up. But once you have set it up, and then came Bill Fade, who was like, I believe 6 years ago, Bill Fade told me, Jess, you should have it on every single page,
yep,
not
Yeah.
just the main page. You
Yep.
should have it on the fleet page. You should have it here. You
Yep.
should have it on your city pages. You should have it everywhere. And then I went crazy and just put it everywhere.
So-
And of course, I do have some SEO knowledge, and I do have some knowledge about that too. So it was really helpful. But go ahead,
talk
Ken.
about your position in the market. You are by no means the least expensive in your market.
No, I'm not. I'm probably going to say I'm right at about the 70% right there.
Medium
First
high.
time. Medium high.
Yeah.
Medium
I
high.
am.
That's how you build profitability and build a
Right.
brand.
Right. Yeah, it is. But the benefit is, number one thing I do see people not doing in this industry is staying humble.
Yeah.
I still answer the calls. I tell my staff, if there's somebody that has a huge wedding, they need 6, 7 buses, transfer the call to me. I want to talk to them. If there's a big corporate event, have them talk to me. And that's the main thing. I'm not driving out there every day. I'm not on my cell phone. I'm actually have a very expensive phone system, which is high definition. And that's one of the things that I notice most of my competitors are talking on the phone while driving.
Yep, they're on their cell phones.
Everybody's on the cell phone. Nobody
Well,
technically has an office anymore.
No,
Well,
but your organization is also flat, meaning you don't have a
Right.
ton of management. It's
No.
flat, and it's family based. It's family based, but you've made the move into what I call institutional. Meaning the private school side.
Right.
But talk about the rest of the customer makeup that you have.
My number one client, which everybody knows, I already posted this on Facebook, is Microsoft.
Right.
And they're back with a vengeance. They are spending more money than they have since pre-COVID. They are back. And it's through, whether it's dealing directly with them or through DMC.
DMCs is a big piece of your business.
DMC is the big piece of pieces. I have 4 of the 5 big DMCs that
Why do
operate in
they
the Seattle
use
area.
you? Why does the DMC keep coming back to you?
I'm available. I can talk to them. If they want if they want, they can just call me. They have my cell phone numbers if they really need me. But everything is done through email. The one DMC that I don't have, I don't want them. I actually fired them because they were being too much, and I said I'm done. So I have 4 of the 5 big ones.
But that's a really good position to be in, and that's something I'd like you to expand a little bit on, because there's a lot of people that think they have to keep a client no matter what, when
And
you
they
get
have to be
a
the
cer-
lowest price.
Yeah,
have to
and when
be-
you get
yes.
to a certain point, that's not really what you want.
It has to do something with, I think, availability and being the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
I think just having the right equipment and having the buses and all that. Although I do have noticed that this year a lot of my DMCs are booking the buses, but they are not booking the airport transportation, which has gone down. But that's a
Is
whole
that
different
being
topic.
taken by Uber, or where do you
That's been
think that's
taken by
going?
Uber. I think that it has been taken by Uber, but I'm trying to pivot back because I'm talking about women's safety, and I'm also talking about, they don't have to wait 30 minutes in the long Uber line in the garage or anything like that. We are right there. So there is a pivot for next year.
Yep. Now, are you going to do that with in-house? Are you going to do a combination of in-house and IO? How are you going to approach that?
Most of my work is actually done in-house.
Yep.
The one thing good about me is that because I have all these bus drivers, sometimes not all the buses go out, so I can pivot them into sedans and SUVs, and I've been doing that, and so it does work well. Like we had a situation about, I think, 3 weeks ago when the show was happening, and we ran out of buses. due to maintenance or whatever. But we have sprinters. So I told the client, good, I'll charge you the same amount of money. We have sprinters. Can I bring in sprinters? They said, Jess, you do whatever you want to do. And those are the kind of clients I love. You do whatever you want to do.
They trust your
To make it
judgment,
happen.
and they allow you.
They say, just make it happen. They say, we don't care. Just make it happen. And that's the main thing is, I mean, of course, Seattle, we have so many Fortune 500 companies. We have Microsoft, Boeing. We have so many events going on every time. And besides me and I believe one other company, there's really no one else to handle it here in the market. So if any of the companies want to come to Seattle, please come.
Yep.
There's plenty of work.
How do you attract and keep your CDL drivers? Because you've done a great job. I don't see you perpetually shorthanded of CDL drivers.
I'm not. I'm fully staffed.
How did that happen?
Well, just, many companies think like just because that guy has a CDL, he can drive any bus. Or, for example, I have a 65-year-old guy who's really great with senior citizens. I'm going to send him to all my senior homes. I have a couple of staff that are great with kids and coaches. So they are. Then of course I have the elite drivers, which have been with me for many years, and they know every single building in Microsoft. They know every single building. They basically just know everything. And those are the guys that always do my high-end work. So there's always this, I have school bus drivers, which I cannot send to a corporate job.
Right.
Because I know they're going to screw it up. So every employee has their limitations.
But you're working in their strengths, right?
They are.
You've identified what they're good at, and you're having them work in their strengths, which a lot of companies don't do a good job of that.
For example, a 68-year-old driver does not want to drive a party bus.
Right.
But no, of course not. And so there are all these limitations with each driver, and I've tried to learn from them, and I try to see, for a brand new driver, every day he comes back from a job, the very night or the very next day, I'll have a 2-minute conversation with them and see how it went, how they like it, how was it, or stuff like that. There are some drivers we have 73-year-old drivers that love doing the school, but if you send them out at 10 o'clock at night, they hate it because why? It's dark.
Yeah.
And they're getting old, the lights flashing and all that.
You have to play to your players' strengths. There's no question about it.
We do.
Yeah. And to your point, you treat them like A players. You don't treat them like chattel.
No.
The days of dispatchers screaming at chauffeurs and CDLs, those days are permanently over.
Actually, it's still happening, believe it or not.
Yeah. Oh, in some companies, the turnover...
It's still happening.
I see the turnover in some companies, and I talk to some owners, and I'm like, dude, it might be a cultural issue. Meaning,
it might be.
Corporate culture has to change. You have to field your best team, and you have to play for your players' strengths.
You do, and and every company is different. I've seen them. There are some companies, you can judge a company by how old or how many years has that employee has worked for that company. My oldest employee is 23 years old. He's been with me for 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, my newest employee I think is 6 months. So and I spoke to another company, and he's 10 years old. I believe he's 11 years old. The company is. His oldest employee is 19 months.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Listen, we see that when we have companies for sale, and they'll send over their staff list, and they'll send over their employee their start date, and you see it as 2022. And the company's been in business for 15 years. You know that it's got a cultural issue. It's got a corporate culture problem.
Yep.
It's very interesting because I've dealt with companies where they're trying to solve that, right? They've come in and they've identified, they've said, hey, we have a turnover problem. Hey, we have this. And it's interesting because if I go back to those companies, I guarantee you if we start asking the experience, the longer experienced people are going to be when that company figured it out and changed it. Right? You're going to see that change. And it's one of the biggest things that I hear over and over is people want to work at a company where people care about them, where what they do matters, where the
Appreciate
owner
it.
actually
Appreciate it.
appreciates them.
Right. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it can't be, it's like the old saying, if you can fake sincerity, you got it made. You cannot
You
fake
can't.
you cannot fake taking care of your people. There's
No.
across the bridge from me, there's a really, a large network customer of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over there for a finance meeting, and they were having a chauffeur's birthday party. And,
wow.
And, and this guy had been with him for like, I want to say 18 years. And we would all know who the president of the company is. He speaks at all, spoken at our conferences. And he got up and he led the team, he led the employees. And this is what this person means to my business and is meant to my business. And so, it is corporate culture now more than ever. And especially if you're doing the remote worker thing, or if you've got a field if your people are representing you in the field, they better be happy.
Yep.
Because
exactly.
we've all seen when we've been picked up by drivers, and you can tell they're miserable. They're just miserable at what they do. So talk to us about where you see Seattle going, where you see your market going. Do you see low price competitors are you worried about low price competition, or you feel you overcome that?
I think we have overcome that. I think with good reviews and just a strong hold of the market, I think we have definitely overcome that. I believe 89, or I think it's more like 95% of the limo companies in Seattle right now are 1 to 2 car operators. And
Yes.
And there is a market for them too. I mean, we have a call from an IO every day, and it is sad because right now I think every market is going through a slow times right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Except for Florida and Arizona, but besides that, events are, because it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, everything is coming down. But I believe Seattle is with that many Fortune 500 companies in Seattle. I believe Seattle and San Francisco, I think, the two of the strongest cities.
Yeah.
Happening.
And talk to, you've cultivated some really great relationships. You've got a great insurance guy that you do business with.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad has great relationships with the manufacturers of the equipment and the dealers. Talk to us about the importance of that.
Well, number one is insurance. We've been with the same insurance guy, I believe, for the last 27, 28 years old.
He takes care of you.
Yeah, he does. He takes care of me. And every time he meets, he said, I have everything covered, from my personal properties to my houses to my rental properties to the business. He said, I have everything covered. I just opened up a brand new dealerships, a very small used car dealership, and he's having a hard time getting me insurance on that part of the business.
Another business.
Another business.
But he's working with you on everything, right? This is someone that's guided you through all of your insurance needs, right?
Yeah, he has. And he's having a hard time for a new business, which is my used car dealership, because my dad has this old school contacts with like banks, and I don't know how he did it, but right before COVID happened, I went down to Vegas to pick up a Sprinter, which was 5 years old and never ever registered from the bank.
Wow.
It has 700 miles on it.
Wow.
Literally. And I don't know where he gets his deals. Sometimes we get a lot of these deals. So I say, you know what? Let me open up a used car dealership so I can buy these vehicles if I don't want them and just fix them up and sell them. Just like what Billy Jinks is doing up in Phoenix.
No, absolutely. Great player.
And I said,
Great
let me
operator.
do it the legal way, which is open up a used car dealership.
Right.
And unfortunately, I'm having a hard time getting insurance. I believe I've been licensed for about 2 months now. I'm having a hard time getting insurance, business insurance.
I was on with the president of one of the largest agencies today, and I said, it's going to get worse in 25, isn't it? He said, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The reinsurance market is absolutely horrible. And he made a special point in saying the new businesses trying to come in are going to have a serious problem with accredited A-rated insurance providers.
Right, which is what,
and to your point, back on the IO piece, I believe 2025 is going to be a difficult year for the 1 and 2 car operators. I
It
think
is.
it's going to be a rude awakening.
I just had an IO who bought I believe a 24 Escalade, which I was like, why did you buy an Escalade? And his insurance came out to $16,000.
So let me ask you something, because this
Mm-hmm.
is something I
Jesus
talked
Christ.
about, and Ken's talked about, and it comes up a lot. Was it a purchase of he bought the Escalade because that's what he needed, or he bought the Escalade because that's what the market demanded? Because we see so many times they buy the Escalade out of vanity instead of business need.
It's a vanity.
Okay.
Yep.
Look, I routinely talk to the chief operating officer of probably the largest network that has the highest touch clients in the entire country. And I say to him, what do you say to an affiliate that says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy all Escalades? He said, Ken, that's a part of my business, but the lion's share part of my business is an executive who wants to be seen as in a Suburban. He does
Correct.
not want to be seen in that Escalade.
Yep,
That's a huge mistake. That's a
Yep.
huge mistake.
The only people that ever ask for Escalades are rappers,
Yep.
musicians.
Well, they
And
want
that-
the status, they want the
Yeah,
image.
yeah, exactly. And that's not who we do. I mean, I have one Escalade in my fleet. I have a 2019 Escalade with really low miles that we hardly use.
Right.
And I just because everything is Suburban, and I just bought a brand new 24 Expedition just to try it out because we got a super good deal. But besides that, I just don't see. I mean, I have the number 4 guy at Microsoft just rode last night, and he rode in a 2019 MKT, and he had no problems.
So
He had
talk to
no-
us about the affiliate piece, because you didn't touch upon that.
Okay.
How much work do you do on the affiliate side, and what kind of advice would you give an operator on growing his customer base?
I believe my affiliate piece is about 30% of all my airport rides are affiliates. 30% of my business, I would say 20, no, I think it's less than that, I believe. I think it's about 20%. So 20% of my business is affiliate business.
But it's not with it's spread out among a bunch.
It's spread out with everybody. Like, it could be the big 3 in Dallas. It could be it's all across the board, and the number one piece about that is GNet. Of course, I still have people that don't have GNet, which is the stupidest thing. Or I have people that don't want to. I have an affiliate in New York that is on limo anywhere, just like me, and does not want to send a trip through LANet.
What's
And
the
that's-
reasoning?
They
Is
said,
there any reasoning, or is that just stubbornness?
the stubbornness. They just stubbornness, and we all know who it is, and everyone hearing this will probably know who it is, and they are like, well, things don't get updated. I'm like, how does things don't get updated? I mean, there was one time probably something happened at one time, and it doesn't. And I explained to them, I said, once we hit dispatch, and it's within 2 hours, yes, things are not going to get updated. And I've explained this to them, but they just. And then, it's
But
just
it's
stupid.
evolving the business that I don't understand the resistance to change. And if you were resistant to change, first of all, you still own taxis. Second of all, you might even still be in stretch limousines, because there are guys folding onto that. There are people
Yeah.
that were, your contemporaries that didn't pivot and see what you saw. So,
Right.
one lesson is always be evolving your business, which
Yes, it is. It is.
you've
And
done it.
yes, and I'm looking for more, as I turn 48 next year, I'm looking for a business that is Monday to Friday. I'm trying to look for Monday to Friday business. I don't want the Saturday late night bar trips. I had one, I believe yesterday, one of my regular clients called me for a night on the town, and I just said, I'm sorry. I said, I don't do night on the town, and they want the vehicle till 5 a.m. And I say, sorry, that's a bit too short notice, because it is what it is. I mean, as we get older and all that, wiser and all that, that stretch limo sits in that parking space for 6 to 7 days in a row,
Yeah.
not generating any income.
No.
Yet the insurance on that thing is about $6,000 a year.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Wait a minute. That's in your case. In some
Yeah,
cases,
in my case.
it's 10 to 12,000. And when you
Right.
try to get people to talk about asset utilization, well, I use it for one client, or I have it for this reason, and they don't even cover their costs with it.
No, it doesn't.
It's crazy, and that's every piece of equipment. You've also got some of the highest utilization of your vehicles. You don't have a huge fleet sitting around. You have great utilization.
I do, because I rotate. Yeah, because it's all about rotation. If somebody wants a 28 passenger bus, let's say, yeah, so I can send a Gretsch, I can send a Starcraft, I can send a Tiffany, I can send a Turtle Top. Klein wants a 28 passenger. They don't care about the brand. That's another thing I want to talk about is the brand. There's a lot of affiliates, they want Gretsch, which is great because we do have them. We do have 4 Gretches in our fleet. But a lot of the general public don't know what a Gretsch bus is.
No.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
The people riding on that bus aren't going to have any clue if it's a Gretsch or whatever make.
Exactly. They just want you to come 15 minutes early.
Yes.
They want a well-suited driver. They want a clean bus. And that's all. That's all they're looking for.
And the people that turn over their minibuses every 4 to 5 years, they're crazy because
they're crazy.
And Harry's mantra is to make sure everything gets paid off fast.
Right, he does.
That's where you make all your money, is when you've got very, very low debt.
It is, and both of my mechanics love me because I pay them right away. In fact, my school bus mechanic that I go to a shop now, he loves us because here are truck drivers that are taking 2 months to pay, and we pay at the end of the week.
That's curious that you don't have you don't have a full staff of in-house mechanics. You have good shop relationships because you pay your bills.
I actually do have one guy. I wouldn't call him a mechanic, but he does a lot of the simple things like checking the oil, changing a tire, or simple stuff like fixing things inside and all that. But if it's a big job, for example, changing a water pump on a 6.7 liter, I'll probably send it out.
I think kind of as we wrap this up, it's interesting because you've hit on probably some of the most fundamental things of running a business, and I think in this one episode we covered so much, but I think the key things that you've really kind of pointed out are being able to pivot, right? Whether that's moving across literally moving across the world to start a new business or even within your own business. You've talked about the importance of taking care of your people and how important it is to understand, the people in your organization. And even in the case of, trying to be more effective with technology, treating those people that you have the best you can. And then now we've kind of come full circle in knowing the business, knowing what the market wants. So I think we're definitely going to have probably 2 or 3 more episodes to dive into those with you. But I think in this episode, we've really kind of dived in. As we kind of wrap it up, let me ask you, as someone who's grown up in this, who's seen this, if you could share one last thing before we wrap this up with everybody listening right now, whether they're new, whether they've been in the industry, what's the most valuable thing that you would, go back and tell yourself, or that you'd tell to others that are in that same boat?
I mean, I grew up in an era where we had whoever had the biggest yellow page ad got the business. This was, if you have a full-size yellow page ad, you got the business. I think if I were to restart this business, I would probably say I would probably be a bus company.
Just straight to the
buses, and it looked scary, but it wasn't. And and if that is the only thing I can tell my younger self. Yes, limos were great. We had the nicest limo, the biggest limo, the 6-wheel limos, all that. But that's a fate. It only lasts for a couple of years, 4 years, 5 years. That's it. Now nobody even asks us for limos. I mean, all the corporate, they just don't want a limo. They rather ride in a bus or a Sprinter shuttle.
No, and I think that the best part of ending on that for me, right, and you started in the buses, you went to the taxis, you went through, and after all of that, after rebuilding the business, you're right back in buses. So I think for anyone listening, there's a ton of value there. Jess, I can't thank you enough on behalf of Ken, on behalf of myself, everybody for coming on. We miss having you around. We miss seeing you at all the shows. So hopefully we'll be able to have you back and hanging out more. I know you've been absolutely killing it running the business. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks, James Can.
Thank you very much, Jess, and tell Harry I said hello.
I will.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX Training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.